what has shifted? Because you were doing all this marketing activity, you were doing the live. What shifted in your own thinking throughout this process, and really an operating system, because it does systematize activity so that we're not burning our energy, we're actually focusing and harnessing it back in on the connection and the conversation.
Yeah, I think that's it. You're going to invest your energy. The question is, are you going to get much of a return? And I was investing it, and I enjoyed the interviews before, and people said they enjoyed the content, but it was this, long game. Some people watched it, maybe a few clicks, maybe out of tens and tens of episodes, we might get a lead, but I look at the way we were doing kind of the traditional podcast YouTube channel, and there was very little return on investment. And so the light bulb went off when we talked about the Level Up Business OS and what you're doing. And, it kind of allowed me to go, well, I know who my Dream 100 customers are. The other thing is, I know that you can learn something from a small or a mid-sized business, but most people in the industry want to learn from the fastest growing, the most interesting. So if I can interview them, then the content itself is going to be far more interesting. And then, like a lot of people talk about, when you declare it, kind of the universe moves to make that happen. And I remember I was having trouble getting what I would call the typical MSP in some cases. And then when I said, I'm only interviewing the top 100, they felt more like it was an exclusive invite, which it is. They felt like they wanted to contribute to the mission. The other thing is, by virtue of going after those larger ones, they generally had they're super busy, but they had some ability to set aside some time in the future. Sometimes smaller businesses struggle. And they were thinking a little bit more about legacy. So they were like, this is a great mission. I've been wanting to give back and share. I've been in business for 20 years, and I've shared with my team, but I haven't shared all these lessons with anyone else. So to give them that vehicle has been tremendous.
That's why I think what you're doing with MSP Mindset is so important, and it's something that other B2B entrepreneurs can replicate, because you're tapping into unique wisdom. And I define unique wisdom within the Level Up Business OS as your unique perspective and the unique methodology. And when we think about unique wisdom, this does not exist anywhere else. It doesn't exist in some commoditized AI, large language model. Wisdom is gained through experience. And so you're unlocking and capturing that and elevating others through this entire process, which gets back to your point about value creation. How is this, first and foremost, let's look at this through two angles. How is this created value? You were touching on this for those that you're inviting into the conversation.
Yeah, it was interesting to see, because there were some that had never been on a podcast, and there still are, because frankly, it's the IT industry. We're not known for being outgoing. We're known for being introverts. And
Right.
So you have the folks, the occasional ones that are on stages speaking and, on TV and other things like that. But the norm is introvert. They haven't told their story. And so there's a lot of them that didn't want to be on that. But even so, you'd get requests, be on my podcast, be on my podcast, be on my podcast. Well, they all sound the same, right? But I'm interviewing 100 of the fastest growing and most interesting MSPs on a planet, and that's my mission. All of a sudden, you're like, that's me, first of all. And second of all, they're like, okay, I see what you're doing. You're packaging that knowledge up and you're giving it back. And I want to be a part of it, because there's some like legacy component, right? I want to do that. It gives them thought leadership in the industry, right? Even out of a list of 500, and there's more out there, but even out of a list of 500, we're only choosing 100. So they get to be exclusive and be that thought leader. And probably the biggest impact, though, is they say, I get to share all these lessons that I've learned. And that's the thing they're so excited about. And I think as we've started releasing them, they're kind of surprised, as we'll, cross post on social media, pull out a short here or there, and something that they just don't even think about. Because especially in like an hour and 20 hour and 30-minute interview, they kind of know what they talked about in general, but there'll just be a little clip that we pulled, and all of a sudden, tons of people are commenting on like, this is great wisdom, and, that sort of thing. So I think that they're just happy to share it.
It's interesting and these are the timeless truths that I'm encouraging B2B entrepreneurs to tap back into: connection, conversation, story, narrative. And you're nothing more than just a facilitator at that point, giving people space to open up and perhaps share something that they've really never shared before, but they want to, they just haven't had the platform to do so.
Yeah, that's part of the unique angle, is like holding that space. And then sometimes if they've interviewed other, I'm asking them, the unique part is really about their story, and I help get a kernel of like what really makes them unique, and then we go deep on it. So it sounds like a lot of time, but if we spend an hour and a half just talking about one or two areas, you really get to shine because we go deep on it. And then that ties to the other thing, which is it just happens that is evergreen. And so many podcasts and so many channels, what they're doing is they're putting out clips and sound bites and cool things based on whatever AI model came out or whatever management technique is the coolest, right? And so these guys, it's the real story. And it's just as valuable 5 years from now as it is today.
If you want to keep learning from videos like this one, I recommend you check out this video right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast conversation, you can click here.